One of the hardest things to do in terms of length of time is fixing old photographs that have major problems like this one. Now, obviously, in the length of filming time I have available, I'm not going to be able to fix everything completely, but I want to show you the basic principle when you have a situation like this where, although you could try to potentially clone or healing brush this area, when it comes to the eye, it's going to be pretty challenging. So let's take a look at the basic idea. I'm just going to make a rough selection of one portion of her lace area here. I'm going to right or control click to feather. We're just going to feather just a little bit. Then I'm going to put it on its own layer by pressing Command or Control J. That will copy it onto its own layer. Take my move tool and start to move it over. Now obviously it's facing the wrong way, so we press Command or Control T for free transform. Then we can control or right click and choose, let me do it up here so you can actually see it, flip horizontal. Now the chances are, of course, her lace neck piece is not an exact mirror image, so it's not matching up very well. Now one of the new features that was introduced in CS2, which is very nice, is previously if you were in free transform and you decided you wanted to make something more see-through, you couldn't, but now you can. So I'm going to actually lower the opacity, and look what happens. As I'm dragging the opacity, it flips back to the original way, and then I let go, it goes back again. So what I can basically do is kind of make this part I'm moving semi-see-through. So you see how I can get a better idea of how it's matching in because I'm seeing the underlying information a little better. Now, the chances are you're going to have to do some extra transformation, so I'm holding down the Command or Control key, and that lets me move corners independently. So it's not just doing, you don't want it to be proportional in this case because it wouldn't make sense to be proportional because it is not a perfect mirror image. So you can basically do some tweaking of this nature to try and get it looking the way you want, and then once you're done you hit enter and then put the opacity all the way back, and it's already starting to look a whole lot better. It's certainly covered up the torn area. Now I'm going to keep these as separate layers for now. In a real project I would name these layers to keep track, but for now I just want to show you the same concept with her eye. Now obviously her eye is gone, so I'm going to try and use this eye. So I'm going to make, whoops, oh, that's not too bad, a rough selection. Again, feather it, in this case probably just a little bit. Make sure I'm on the background layer, press that Command or Control J shortcut, and then drag it over. Free transform, and once again, as we did before, flip horizontal so it's at least remotely facing the right way. Now, in this case, it's really hard to see what's happening for two reasons, part of which is because of the handles on free transform. So if I press Command or Control H for a moment, I will hide those, and now I can still do things like rotate and see how it's looking, but I'm not distracted by those handles. I can also again lower the opacity to see a little bit better whether it's fitting in. I'm going to lower it down even further. So now I can once again use the arrow keys to kind of nudge it over a little bit to try and fit where I think it should go. And at some point you're going to have to put the opacity back to 100% and also show those edges again to make it really fit in the way you want. Now again, chances are a couple of problems will happen. One of them is I picked up a little bit of the original her hair on the other side here, so I probably want to take my eraser tool with a very small soft edge brush and just kind of do a bit of erasing of part that's stopping it from blending in quite so well. But the other thing is that could happen is, of course, this part is darker. Let me hide this eye for a second. You can see it looks like it's a little too dark, so I'm going to press Command or Control L for levels, and then simply just use the mid-tone triangle to kind of lighten it up a bit. Turn the preview off and on so you can see it's matching in a whole lot better. Now the one thing I would also add is in retrospect I wish this photo was scanned in at a higher resolution because I'd really love to zoom in like this close and see what I'm doing, but as you can see it's getting a little difficult just because of lack of resolution. But that just gives you a basic starting point that anytime you have the opportunity to use existing pixels to fix something, remember, keep it in perspective, that's the size it's going to print. So we were zoomed in really close where the lace maybe didn't look quite so good, but now it looks pretty good at this size. So just use that idea of selecting something, put it on its own layer, and then do some transforming and blending in to try and start the process of repairing a photo. I gotta say, I love working on old photos as you're digging around. You never know quite what you're gonna find. Check this out. A lot of you know I sing in a barbershop quartet, but you may not be aware just how long I've been doing that for. I'm Dave Cross. We'll see you next time.